Meta and Snap, they are up slightly this morning after surging yesterday during the TikTok CEO's heated hearing with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Both Snapchat and Instagram could be big winners if TikTok is banned. Joining us now with a look at what's next for TikTok and what steps could possibly come after this hearing that took place yesterday. We've got our own Alexis Keenan. Alexis, you were watching this just as all of us were. What were the massive takeaways that we were able to kind of extrapolate from this hearing?
I think the number one takeaway is this absolute unanimous bipartisan dissent against TikTok, with expressing Americans' fears, the constituents' fears of these lawmakers, that the app poses a both physical and mental hazard to youth and also a national security threat. Now, we're not yet at the stage of an actual ban under the Biden administration, at least. So far, the idea of a ban has really been used as more of a threat to force TikTok's hand to satisfy the U.S. lawmakers and Americans that the collection of their data on this app is not being used as a national security threat, given that the company's Chinese owner ByteDance is subject to Chinese law, and that's something that the lawmakers talked quite a bit about. So I want to just play one Q&A between Representative Jay Obernolte of California, Republican. He was a former computer engineer, a video game developer. Here's what he had to say to TikTok CEO Shou Chew.
I appreciate the effort. My concern, Mr. Chew, is I don't believe that it is technically possible to accomplish what TikTok says it will accomplish through Project Texas. I just think that there are too many backdoors through that process to allow that to be possible, and I think a malicious actor would succeed in inserting malicious code in there if they wanted to.
So then where do we go from here, right? We got all of these statements or non-statements or a lot of evasiveness by Shou Chew yesterday to questions that were posed to him. But from here, I think in order to figure out what happens to TikTok, we need to look at the various U.S. efforts so far that have already been made under two administrations to try to protect Americans' data. So first, you have to go back to the Trump administration and look at the executive order that Trump tried to pass and enforce to force TikTok to divest the company to a U.S. entity. Of course, that was struck down a couple of times by U.S. courts, in part because it had a conflict with the First Amendment, and this executive order seemed to fly in the face of free speech rights. Second, though, comes then negotiations for data protections with the U.S. government, and that is what was referred to so many times in this hearing called Project Texas. All that is really TikTok's name for its initiative to try to appease the U.S. government, right? They have been in negotiations with the U.S. government for 2+ years to try to pass some measures that will satisfy the government. And finally, there are some new proposed U.S. laws that are already been entered into in both the House and the Senate. And one of those is called the Restrict Act. And what that does is it grants the Commerce Department some of the powers that the Trump administration was trying to get through with its executive order. And that would actually allow a ban of foreign apps and foreign technology that poses a national security threat. Now, that's the avenue that TikTok doesn't want, right? So you have to wonder if at this point, after the testimony from Chew that has been described by many as devastating, analysts, media, lawmakers, saying that this was just not a good showing for the company, particularly because of a lot of the questions that were not answered. You have to wonder if they would like to go back and look at that divestiture option, that was maybe a good option to begin with. But certainly analysts are saying coming out of this that it's looking more and more like divestiture might be an avenue here.
Well, and the Chinese government has been very much opposed to that. They would need to approve any kind of, whether it's an IPO or a sale, anything that retains the TikTok data and the user experience. So I understand why they would be hesitant, or why they would be opposed to losing that. Do you really think that the table has turned enough so that that option, the Chinese government seriously could put that back on the table?
Yeah, and in fact, one of the problems that Chew had going into this testimony is right before he started giving it, the Chinese government had issued a statement saying that they would, in fact, have to approve any divestiture, any sale of this company. That really undermined his message that he, I think, was hoping to give to the members of Congress. So it's definitely in flux right now, but the stakes have gone up exponentially for TikTok, and that its hand is really forced at this point because now there is so much momentum by lawmakers and by Americans to want to do something about this. Maybe this time around, right? Maybe taking a lesson from, look, the tech CEOs of American companies, they were put to a grilling before Congress multiple times. They've not been exempted from these criticisms either. So maybe taking a page out of like the lessons that were learned from the past and trying to apply them now in the present.
Chew kept his calm yesterday. I will say that under very, very intense pressure. Alexis Keenan, thank you for that.